So in the last lesson, we looked at the workspace and the task manager. Now let's dive into the deeper details of Pro Tools, the preferences. We can access preferences in setup, and they are right down the bottom here. So I'm not going to go into every single function. I'm just going to share with you the stuff that's important that will affect your day-to-day use of using Pro Tools as a beginner. This is really handy. Tooltips and details. As you hover over things, it will give you a little bit of information. So if I hover over here, it will tell us this is the grabber tool. Let's just go back into preferences. So you can turn those off and on here. You can choose how long the edit window is. You might want it to be set to a specific length, like 2 hours. How you organize your plugins, we will get to that. Plugins are up in here. I/O is done by type. You can change your language here if you don't want it in English. You can change your theme, as I mentioned. Color coding, so some of that color window I showed you earlier, how that functions can be accessed here, whether things are colored, what is default color coding, track type, or is it the clips itself? So now we've got some of the operation stuff. So this is the transport controls. Edit insertion follows scrub and shuttle. So as you scrub through, wherever you stop, that will be the marker to insert there. Playhead follows a timeline selection. You need that on, that's handy. Rest of it really doesn't really affect us as a newcomer to Pro Tools. This is pretty handy. You can choose how many backups it keeps. So if you've got a bit of an iffy computer, you might want to set that to 99 and 1 minute. However, know that Pro Tools might use some of your CPU or RAM, so if it's saving too often and you're getting issues, then maybe change that to 2 or 3 minutes or 5 minutes. Here is where all of your sort of presets and data are saved, where the documentation is. This is where all of your presets will be saved from things like the clip list, the plugins. You've got a media cache here, and you've got a sound library cache as well. And we'll spin up to record. Link, record, and play faders. You don't want those two separate when you're starting out. I normally leave automation in record off. You don't want to be tinkering with too much when you're recording. It will affect what you're doing. Everything else, this is standard. Mouse wheel scrolls snap to track. That means as we scroll up and down the window, it will move by whole tracks, and it won't stop on a visible track. If you're using video, GPU is handy. If you've got a video card, if your video is performing poorly, it might be you need to change this or turn this on, and a diagnostics bit. Next, we have the editing tab. Now, pretty much everything here is set to default. This allows you, when you select a clip in the clip list, it will make that edit selection on the timeline. If you make a selection on a timeline, it will select the file in the clip list, and auto-naming a clip if you separate it. So if you split a clip in half, it will give it a new subname, which will then appear in here. We're not going to worry about the rest of them. Clip gain nudge, we'll talk about clip gain in later editing videos, but you can change how much you can boost the gain on a clip by 0.5 or as many dBs as you want, really. Put 5 in there, but gives you a little warning if you go crazy. I like 5. Here is where you can choose how the numbers across the top of your keyboard function. So numbers 1 to 5 can be the zoom presets here, or they can be the clip effect presets here. So depending on which one you use more, zoom or the clip effects, you can change that there, and you can just jump around pressing 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 at the top of your keyboard. We're not going to worry about any of these. Auto name memory locations when playing is okay. So you hit enter on the numpad to drop a marker, and it will just auto name it, and that's it, done. If you have this off, it will ask you a little window. It'll say, do you want to name it? You can have some default fades all set up, how the pre-roll works, preserve fades when editing. If this is off and you move something, it will delete the fades. Auto accept adjust bounds. This is handy. Pro Tools warns you if it can't do a crossfade or an edit because there isn't enough data or the clip isn't long enough. So just having this on means that it doesn't warn you. Smart tool. There's a fade adjustment here. We will look at the smart tool, but essentially it can ask for a command key to put a fade on, but I always leave that on. Here we can choose some default fades. Fade in, fade out. We can change the shape. Crossfade, Rex doesn't apply to post-production particularly. And we've got some zoom options here. You can see how much it zooms. You can see how toggle zoom works. Track view, you can ask it to jump and change. Zoom toggle follows edit selection. This is one I recommend having turned on. And at the bottom here, we have the levels of undo. I don't know why you'd want less levels of undo, but the more undo, the better in my mind, especially as you sort of start EQing and modifying mixes. Sometimes you just make it worse and you just want to undo. So 64. Next, we have the mixing tab. Again, there's not much we need to change here. Just leave it as it comes set up. I've just installed this Pro Tools. This is the default. Really, there's nothing there I would recommend changing. Leave everything as is. Metering, we can change what metering type we have. I showed you that in the toolbar up here. We can set that here. And we can have different metering for master meters or tracks. It doesn't make any sense to me to have them separate. This is how the peaks hold. So as the meters go up, you can say whether it's clip is indefinite, it will give you a little red and it will stay on and let you know it clipped, whereas peak is just 3-second hold and it will disappear. And you can change how your meters function and you can choose what is displayed. So that's metering. In the processing window, this is the only one I like to change. When I process something, it processes as much as possible or the whole file. I choose 4 seconds there just because I can. But these are important here. So when you import audio, you want it to convert to WAV, the same format. You automatically want to copy files on import. If this isn't on and you drag a file in, the file will stay where it is on your computer and will not go into the audio files folder on your Pro Tools session. You can ask it to be converted. So if you're pulling in some music, the algorithm in Pro Tools will happily convert that to the session sample rate if it's different. Or you can tell it not to convert. But I normally like to have those three on. We're not going to worry about anything else particularly. If you do have some system issues, it might be that you need to change this parallel processing. I've known some people say that their Pro Tools was lagging and they changed this setting and it improved it massively. And you can display waveforms in low resolution again that might speed up your session if you're using an older system. And these last few tabs, I'm just going to fly through them. MIDI, we're not doing MIDI. This is post-production. Collaboration, we're not doing any collaboration. We're just keeping it to ourselves. And synchronization, we have nothing to be synchronized to. So that is the Pro Tools preferences.